All right, back at it. Music by Back When. And so I'm just continuing with this light blue. And then eventually I'm going to add darker blue around it. It's going to be a little bit awkward to try and get to this right side of the canvas without blocking your view too much. So I'm still trying to figure out the best angle for everything. And there's a big delay on my camera. So we're going to see. We're going to try and make this work. You may just have to be patient. So what's cool about this angle, though, is that you can see my palette paper. Or you may not find that cool, but you might find it interesting. My palette paper looks a lot different from a lot of other artists. Mine's like just really messy. So I need to, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do like to make sure that things are proportionate. So what I'm doing now is I'm measuring over, it's roughly 5 inches and 5 inches. So I don't want to go too much further over there. So this next part is going to be a little bit more challenging. Because these are much smaller pieces. I may have to switch brushes here. Actually, that's exactly what we're going to do. So this is a 4. The brush I was just using was a 6. So this is the next size down. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just kind of complain right there because I went over my line. But the beauty of stained glass work is you can cover up a lot of your mistakes as far as your line work is concerned. All right, so now I'm just going to measure over again. So this starts to drop over around 3 inches, and that's roughly right there. So that influences how I'm going to do this. So even though I don't have a line there right now, I'm going to carry this line over eventually. And above it's going to be a darker blue. And then this one is going to be this lighter blue. Thank you. I used to know what that meant. You're going to have to translate for me. And then, so I'm almost done with this light blue. And then I'm going to start working on a darker blue. And so this light green that you're seeing right now was a mistake. It took me a long time to try and figure out what my stained glass pattern was going to be. And it took me a long time to figure out the colors I was going to use. Now it seems really obvious that I'm using blue, but before I was going to do a sun. But the sun wouldn't make any sense because of the shadows that are already on this painting. Because if the sun is behind it, then these shadows don't make sense, because based on where these shadows are, the sun is hitting it from this angle. So I had to completely change all of my line work. And sometimes you don't really know what it looks like until you have paint on your canvas. What's cool about these designs too, the stained glass, is I don't want it to be perfect. I don't want to create the same exact pattern. And so you don't really know what kind of pattern you're going to work with when you first start out. Because some of these features you know are going to exist, but you have to pretend that this is a real stained glass painting. Like, how would I handle this if I was actually putting pieces of glass here? So based on like where these lines fall, based on where these buildings exist, that's where you have to tie in these other pieces. And so sometimes you have no idea the direction of these lines when you're doing a stained glass piece until you're in it. And that's really interesting to me. So I'm almost done with this light blue. All right. So now, I don't typically do this, but I'm just going to use the paint straight out of the tube for right now. I like creating my own colors and creating different variation. But you can see now that this was the light blue. This is the current blue that I'm going to use. Well, not the current, the blue I'm going to use next. If it's too dark, I can always change it for the second layer. And I'm going to stay over here for right now. No, I like that because it's just subtle enough. All right. So you can start to see the difference a little bit. And I'm actually not going to paint for too much longer because I just heard my kids come home. And this is at a decent stopping point because I finished my light blue. But I was really anxious to see what this other blue looked like compared to the lighter blue, so I can start to visualize the rest and start to pretend what it is going to look like. And like, for example, I want to fix this. I'm going to start over here so you can start to see the difference on this side. So I think what I'm going to do is just do one pass. So basically, wherever there's a border with the light blue, I'm going to go over it with the dark blue. So you can start to see the differences in blue that I'm using. So now you can start to get a sense for what this is going to look like. I know it's kind of difficult because I'm blocking your view a little bit. So it's always nice when you get a big square like this because all these other lines are so small. It can be kind of stressful to make sure that you're hitting your lines and hitting your spots. So it's always nice when you get a space that isn't as stressful. So I went over the line a little bit, but again, that's going to be covered up. It's not as big of a deal. And again, this green is starting to show through a little bit. That's okay because this is just the first layer. And then the second layer will be a little bit different. I'm going to leave this for right now. So the green paint is a mistake. So when I first started this painting, the idea was, can you hear me okay? I'll type it if you can't hear me, but I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay. Okay. So originally, where this circle is, there was a couple different circles. There was one right here. This is the second one. And this is the third one. The original idea was that the sun was going to be behind it. And you can faintly see maybe these different lines. And this was all going to be sun rays. And I was going to alternate. One was going to be yellow, one was going to be blue. One was going to be yellow, one was going to be blue. And then the inner circle was going to be very like a light yellow. This one was going to be a slightly darker yellow, and this was going to be a darker yellow. But sometimes you don't really realize things until you see it on the canvas. And it was bothering me because these shadows didn't make any sense. Because the sun is behind these buildings. So if the sun is behind these buildings, then this has to be shaded too, because it's not getting any sun. So this has to be really dark. And I didn't really like that. I also didn't want to compete too much with these details of the towers and the bridges. So in order for these shadows to really make sense, the sun has to be basically where my light is. And it's coming down like this at an angle, which creates the shadow on this side. So the sun didn't make any sense. But I didn't know that until I started putting yellow on the canvas. And then I was like, nah, I don't want to do that. I want blue here now. So I started putting blue, hoping that I could just cover up the yellow, even though it was fresh. And it created this green. I was like, well, let me just go with it. Let me just see if I can make this green work. Because sometimes a lot of my big breakthroughs with paintings or styles have been based on an accident, based on something I didn't mean to do. Keep on looking at that instead of the camera. So then I had this big box of rags right here. You can't see it. But I just took a rag like this, and I just started wiping everything and just drying it off. But it still looks green. But once I put the blue on top of it, like over here, it's still, you can tell from my perspective, a very light blue or very light green. But this is just the first layer. So after I'm finished this layer, and I do another blue, you won't be able to see it. That's one reason why I wanted to come in here so badly, is to erase that blue. Make sense? Now I'm leaving this right here because I'm going to cut this in half eventually. And so I'll change that to a darker blue when it's ready. So in case you're wondering about the music, I used to not have music in here. I used to only listen to music with my headphones. But I was talking to my brother, and he was like, you should really try and have some music. But I have to be careful because I can get in trouble if I play music that I don't have permission to play. Like if I don't own the copyright, then I could get in trouble. So you can only play music that you make or you have permission to play. So I was in here the other day, and there's a song that came on. Actually, I'll play it for you right now. And I was like, wow, I really like that song. And I was like, who is this? And I was like, oh, this is back when. And the song is called Duality. And I love this song. And so I reached out to the producer like a day later. And I was like, man, I really like your music, because I started listening to more of his tracks. I was like, he's out of Denver, Colorado. And it just kind of fit the vibe. Normally I paint at night. And it doesn't have a lot of lyrics, so I can just kind of zone out, get into the music. And I reached out to him. I was like, hey, man, would you mind if I played your music during my stream? He's like, no, man, go ahead. So I was like, okay. Like, he's not like a huge artist yet, so he didn't care. He's probably just like, hey, the more people that listen, was pretty cool. Good, I'm glad. I'm glad that you feel that way. I think it matches the vibe in here. And it's like my introduction. This is technically called like trap music in a sense. It's like a mixture of trap music and EDM, I guess. But I like it. But I am glad to hear that other people feel that way too, because if people don't feel that way, then they're less likely to continue watching. And that's important. It's pretty cool that I can paint in my studio and other people can tune in.
This holiday, Verizon can turn your old or broken phone into a gift. Trade in any phone in any condition and get Samsung Galaxy.
But yeah, that was a song that turned me on to back when. So this is another one. Oh, I actually really like this song. The thing with Spotify is like a lot of times I'll throw other artists on, and it makes me nervous because I'm not really supposed to play other artists, so it kind of catches me off guard. So I'm realizing that this might be too dark of a blue this low in the sky. And again, you never know these things until you actually put paint on the canvas and really take a step back and look at it. But I don't know, might be fun to still roll with it. And that way the buildings can just pop that much more. So actually I'm going to go utilize this at first I was going to divide these up. But I'm going to divide this top level instead. The colors are going to be a lot of different variation. And I still don't know yet. That's a really good question, because what I've learned in painting, like I was actually really focused on this point. You always have to understand, there has to be a reason for the areas that you're painting first. So like I know now, this is exactly when I'm painting my sky first. I know that the sky is going to be blue now. Initially I thought there was going to be a sun. But I know now that the sky is going to be blue. So once the sky is blue, and I know that the bridge is red, then I can start to understand, well, what works well with the blue. And I want to have a lot of different variation. So I'm going to have some blue down here to kind of tie it all together. But I'm going to mostly be focusing on like yellows and browns, like warmer colors to compete with the cooler colors in the background. Quick question, because I'm still getting used to Instagram Live. Can everyone see the comments in the chat? Or are the comments only to me? Okay. Good to know. So I'm almost done for the day, unless I get in here later on tonight. Just in case you're wondering why you see these different blocks over here, is because those are going to be clouds. That's one of the very first things that I did, because this is really prominent. This is much bigger than this, so it seemed like this needed something. So I'm going to put a cloud there. Here's a cloud. Here's a cloud. Those are clouds. So but I appreciate everyone stopping by, keeping me company,
If you love your home,
asking questions.
except when the Renaissance Fair comes to town.
I really enjoyed that. It was pretty cool. For many years, it was just me in here, occupying my space by myself. So it's cool that everyone else can see what I'm doing in here now. That's a good stopping point. I have, a layer of blue now, so you can start to see the contrast. And it's a little bit darker than I kind of had anticipated, but I think it'll be all right. And then there'll be another darker layer at the top, like around here. So that's it for right now. Thanks for stopping by. Until next time.